Good morning. Welcome to the second of our back-to-back webinars this morning that focus on setting up planned giving programs in our parishes. This session is focused on creating a legacy society and making best use of the resources of the Episcopal Church Foundation in that work. My name is Ken Allen. I'm serving as the moderator for our sessions today. I'm here as a representative of the Financial Resources Committee of the Episcopal Diocese of Washington, D.C. The committee was established several years ago by Bishop Marianne Budde to assist parishes in meeting their financial needs. Our primary work with parishes has been focused on annual giving, planned giving, and most recently, personal financial planning. We're best known to many parishes for our themed resource kits on annual giving. I'm pleased to announce that the 2020 kit, built around the theme Doing What Love Requires, is now available online at edow.org, edow.org/stewardship. I'd like to say just a word here about this session. Jim Murphy, our presenter, who I'll introduce in a moment, is open to taking as many questions and comments and as you have. And so toward the end of the session, we'll have plenty of time for that. This session is being recorded. It will be available for later viewing on both the EDOW and the Episcopal Church Foundation websites. All participating parishes in this session will receive by mail over the next few weeks the Foundation's Episcopal Church Foundation's Planned Giving on Demand toolkit. And I'll be back in touch with each of you by email to make sure that we have the right addresses to which we will send those kits. Now to our presenter. Jim is Managing Program Director for Endowment Management, Planned Giving, and Donor Solutions at the Episcopal Church Foundation. He oversees ECF's financial resources programs, planned giving, endowment management, and donor solutions, including ECF's Donor Advised Fund program. He works with congregations, dioceses, and other Episcopal organizations to enhance and develop their programs and resources. He holds a certificate in fundraising from New York University's School of Continuing and Professional Studies, a master's in Christian spirituality from General Theological Seminary, and a bachelor's from NYU's Stern School of Business. He's a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals and is a certified fundraising executive. And I can tell you from our personal experience at my church, St. Mark's, Capitol Hill here in Washington, he is an excellent resource, gave us significant help in setting up our own planned giving program. So Jim, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ken, and thanks again for inviting me to participate. I thank you, and I thank Rosemary Sweeney, who was involved in planning this as well. And I really must just thank your visionary bishop, Marianne Budde. She is quite amazing, as all of us in the country have begun to see. And so thank you for that. So our goal today, this continues from a previously recorded webinar just a few moments ago. And in that webinar, what we were seeking to do is to make you feel more empowered. And this is a unique time with COVID still raging in our country, and people are reflecting on a variety of things in the years to come, really, and trying to decide what should we focus on and how. And what I will invite you to do in this session, I'll say this several times, I think, is just to reflect on what is the next step that you as a leader of your particular congregation will take. You don't have to do everything. Don't feel overwhelmed by all of what I'm going to say, because I'm going to say a lot. I'm going to give you a lot of options, a lot of resources, a lot of things to consider. But know that depending on your circumstances, depending on your needs, you could either do something now, you could simply focus on educating your leaders and putting in place your planned giving shepherd that I'll talk about more, as well as any other educational opportunities just to plan and set out what you're going to do. You can do either, you can do both. we here at the Episcopal Church Foundation are here to help you, but you are blessed that you have Ken and Rosie here in the diocese to assist you through this. And of course, I'll be sending a number of links and resources to everyone who participates. For those of you who may not be as familiar with the Episcopal Church Foundation, we are the foundation for the entire Episcopal Church, all of its parishes, dioceses, and related entities. We are an independent, lay-led organization, quite unique in the Episcopal Church. And what we focus in on are a variety of leadership and financial resources so that we can empower the leadership of all of these parishes and institutions to do what God's called you to do in your own particular circumstance. Many of you out there are already familiar with Vital Practices. If you're not, my goodness, you should sign up. It's a great resource, giving updated articles and webinars. It's where all of the webinars I'll be referring to are housed, and you can view at any time, day or not, especially if I'm doing them and you're having trouble sleeping. You can always listen to my webinars to help you fall asleep. But anyway, they're all there on Vital Practices, ecfvp.org. Many of you are familiar with our Vestry Resource Guide, as well as our brand new Finance Resource Guide to help empower leaders of parishes in that area as well. I oversee a number of financial resource departments at the Episcopal Church Foundation, but I also spend a tremendous amount of time working with dioceses and Episcopal entities and parishes all across the country to learn more about planned giving. I oversee the endowment management area at the Episcopal Church Foundation, which is a fast-growing program with well over $425 million under management. And much of that program is growing because of planned gifts that are made. They are an inherent part of ensuring the future of your parish. And so I just want to build a bridge, small bridge, between the earlier webinar and this one. You can hear in the earlier webinar all of the points that I've made about what's up on the screen, but I just want to reiterate a couple of things. Planned gifts are future-focused gifts. These gifts are tremendously important to the individual giving it. Okay, they are raising you to the level of family, to the same place their children and grandchildren are. They believe so deeply and are so convicted about your future mission and ministry that they would make that important choice. You can hear about all the other points in the previous webinar, but please do know it is crucial that you are seeking to build trust and sustain awareness when it comes to planned giving, so that people will be willing to make this gift out of their estate after they can no longer control what you do with it. You need to build up that sense of trust and confidence. I'll come back to it later. Putting in place appropriate endowment structure, which ECF is happy to share with you on some best practice policies, will really help move that along. I'm not going to belabor the different types of gifts. I did that a little bit in the previous webinar. The message here is just to know that there are many, many different types of gifts, and that each person may be more inclined to do one gift or another at different times of his or her life. They should always seek their own legal, tax, and financial advice. That's not what you're doing as a part of your ministry of planned giving. You are seeking to raise awareness to people about all of these options so that they can make the choice that is right for them and their family. And there are many more webinars where we can get into much greater detail about planned gifts. And of course, the Episcopal Church Foundation has a unique role when it comes to life income gifts so that we can help your donors. So if your donors are interested in making a gift now and receiving income in exchange, we can help them and create illustrations and other things to ensure that that gift will work for them, as well as provide other resources to you and the leaders of your congregation to do this good work. So I had this slide up before in the previous session, and I just mentioned it. I'll get a little deeper now because this is something I want to be on your mind. It is silly for me to do a webinar or a workshop in person or anything like that if I am not encouraging you to reflect on, well, what are you going to do about this with this information? And what steps are you going to take to try and move this effort forward at your congregation? It can be small, it can be large. It is probably best if you start to plan out well in advance what you're seeking to do, but doing something rather than nothing is a good idea. And for planned giving, it can make all the difference by simple, gentle, and appropriate actions that you are raising awareness so that people will make a choice, if they believe in your future mission and ministry, that they will trust you with that very important gift. I'm going to be going through a tremendous amount of resources, all of which are available through the Episcopal Church Foundation. And as Ken mentioned before, will also be available to you for free in our comprehensive toolkit called Planned Giving on Demand. So whatever it is that you choose to do next, do it boldly. I won't say sin boldly like Martin Luther recommended, but do step forward boldly and take some actions to make a difference. Okay. I had this slide up in the last webinar, and I want to build the second bridge to talking about all the different resources. So it is crucial, once you have made the important decision to take action and to do something in the area of planned giving and raise this awareness, because of course what I'm trying to do here today is not turn you into planned giving experts, but enable you to become better awareness raisers about planned giving so that others can know and reflect on what's appropriate for them on their own time frame and in an appropriate manner to ensure that their wishes are fulfilled, including making a significant gift to your congregation if that's their choice. So just to reiterate, it's really important that you keep people informed, that you are raising awareness of planned giving on an ongoing basis throughout the year, so that people are thinking about it, because they may not all do it at the same time, and that's okay. It is perfectly okay, but it is important for you to be stimulating people to be thinking about this. And we'll talk about some of the ways you can do it. It's also very important that when someone notifies you that they have made the important decision of raising you to the level of family in their estate plans, that you keep track of that. And that you, as the third bullet says, say thank you. The most appropriate thank you in most cases right away that you should be doing is if someone notifies you that they've made a planned gift to your congregation and raised you to that crucial level, you as leaders of the congregation need to respond in kind. And one of the best ways to do this is get your rector or priest in charge, wherever the pastor might be at this time, to write a handwritten thank you note to that individual, thanking them for raising the parish to the level of family in their estate plans, and say that you'll be following up with them, or other leaders might be following up them in the future to thank them again. You need to keep track of this. You need to ensure that your database is being populated when people make this important decision so that you maintain a relationship. We'll talk later about legacy societies, which are probably the best way to maintain an ongoing relationship with the members of your congregation who make this choice. But it's also very important that you are responding to inquiries when they come in, and that you're sharing resources, like what I'll talk about in a moment, to give to people to help them reflect on what is the right gift for them, as we elaborated on in the previous webinar. But I want to give right away one of the most important pointers I give, and make sure you're thinking about this, and that is on your current pledge card or giving card, whatever you like to call it, do you have a box there that says check off here if you have remembered the parish in your estate plans, and keep it general like that. Also, to have a second checkbox, please check off here if you are interested in learning about planned giving opportunities. These two lines, which should be on your giving or pledge card every year, enables you to have the building blocks for knowing who in your congregation has raised you to the level of family, so that you can both say thank you immediately with a nice handwritten note, but also to record that information for future use, to create your legacy society, and of course, to do many other things. You may also find new leaders at your congregation from the people who have already notified you about this, people you had never thought of before to be involved in this. And we'll come back to many of these principles. But I wanted to share this with you because this is truly what begins and can build up the building block. And certainly there's time now before that typical fall campaign to do this. I am also very happy to say that I'll be sharing with all the members, all the folks who came on this webinar and who signed up for it, that I will be sharing with you a new updated giving card, which has this information on it, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can listen to the previous webinar to learn the other reasons why that's important as giving keeps changing in our country. Okay, so two main areas of focus for our webinar today, I beg your pardon, it's still early. And that is talking through different resources which the Episcopal Church Foundation makes available, and what now your diocese will be making available, and also looking ahead to putting leadership in place so that you are arcing toward having an ongoing legacy society program to continually raise awareness, to continually say thank you, and to keep people knowing that you want to stay in relationship with them because they've made this important decision, and consequently keep raising awareness at the same time. Going to come back to all of this. Okay, so some of the basic resources I mentioned in the previous webinar. Endowment and gift acceptance policies, will make those available to anyone who would like them from this webinar. Because most planned gifts are future focused, right? They typically are best placed into your endowment fund, whether you have that structure in place or not, but that is typically where it is best, because a good and well-managed endowment is focused on the future and will benefit the future mission and ministry of the congregation. Obviously, ECF and other resources are out there for investment of permanent assets. You should always seek to do somebody, even if you don't choose ECF, choose the diocese as an investment partner, or someone that is able to be to give you all of what you need in those cases. Life income gift illustrations, just so that you know, I mentioned it previously in the other session. ECF provides life income gifts, which are where you make a gift and you receive income. We can provide to your donors. You do not need to be expert in this. All you need to do, raise awareness, let them know this is an option, and then the donor or your Plan Giving Shepherd, if you wish, could contact us, and we can work with the donor to figure out what is appropriate for them, always focusing on the donor's best interest, of course. As always, direct leadership support. ECF is here to help you. We have a number of resources, many of which, like Plan Giving on Demand, you can literally hit the ground running with this toolkit and do it on your own practically, but all of us at ECF are happy to assist you. We work directly with all of our endowment clients to help them enhance their own plan giving efforts, but we're also obviously very happy to guide and help you using all of these resources which exist. So webinars, this is something I've already mentioned. We have many, many different webinars, and I'll bring this up a little bit later, but these are webinars that you could use in your adult forum. I mentioned this in the last webinar. You do not need to be expert on this. You could actually conduct a forum where you bring people together on a Sunday morning or whenever you like to do that, and play one of ECF's webinars and use some of the resources that we have to complement those webinars without needing to do it all on your own. You can also do it on your own. You can be guided by Plan Giving on Demand and other resources to create your own planning for the end of life session or initial plan giving session, whatever is appropriate for your parish. I can't tell you which is perfect for you. It's something you as a leader need to reflect on, but as always, ECF is happy to assist and help. I'm now going to transition to talking about some of the other items that are up on the screen from booklets and brochures and other resources. And to start with, our printed resources. So this is something that ECF has made available in a variety of formats for many, many years. And you as a congregation can hit the ground running right now by simply contacting Forward Movement, who is the Episcopal agency that distributes ECF's planned giving materials. You can simply reach out to them right now, order several of these printed resources, such as maybe that blue one, the planned giving general brochure, eliminate the ECF logo and paste on contact at your congregation. You can do that right now, and that is an easy way to get started. A printed resource called Planning for the End of Life is also a very important one. I'll be getting into that in a moment, talking about other webinar opportunities, because both of these two resources, the Planning for the End of Life and the most basic planned giving brochure, have a companion webinar to go in line with them, and can be used at an adult forum to immediately raise awareness of planned giving. As you've heard me again and again, that's one of the obstacles that you have, is that parishes don't do a great job of raising awareness, but you can take that action and make people aware that this is an option for them, plus have it be an extension of your stewardship ministry, that this is an attempt by you to encourage people to reflect on what's been important for them in their lifetime, as well as what are their plans, what are their wishes when it comes to medical care, when it comes to their funeral, when it comes to estate planning. These are all things that you can initiate for them to reflect on. You can do it in the context of an adult forum, or as I say, you can just make these resources available and simply have leaders and your priest at your parish make people aware that they exist, and they can go pick them up and take their time. Remember from the last session, take their time to reflect on their own process for what are their wishes, what do they want to be fulfilled, so that they take the time, seek the appropriate legal, tax, and financial advice, which we always recommend they do in our materials, as well as when we talk to them on the phone, to do that before they finalize any type of gift. The other thing I want to mention is, was on the last slide, the Episcopal Church Foundation doesn't just create these resources simply to promote ECF. What we create them for is so that you, as leaders of your congregation, can take these resources and make use of them, either in the way I've just described, or you can certainly create your own booklet or brochure, and you are welcome to steal the text from our ECF materials. Probably the one that gets used the most is that simple blue planned giving brochure on the left side of your screen. You can copy the text from the PDF, put it into your own materials, add your own pictures, add a variety of things that are appropriate and provocative and evocative for the members of your congregation. So those are all options where you could hit the ground running immediately and get started on this. And all of this is also reviewed in the Planned Giving on Demand toolkit you'll be getting later. There's another resource which has existed for even longer than Planned Giving on Demand. It was in many ways the precursor to it, called Funding Future Ministry. It is included in your toolkit that all of you will be receiving. It's also available for download on Amazon through an ebook for only $9.95. But what this has, and it has many online resources which are incorporated into Planned Giving on Demand, it is a book very well regarded throughout the Episcopal Church on how to get started on planned giving, and giving you a variety of examples and inspiration and other tools that can get you started right away. And this will be included in your Planned Giving on Demand toolkit. You can also still get it separately. All of our resources are still available for purchase or download if they're free resources, like the various booklets and brochures, and that I forgot to mention. All of those are free resources. and they can be downloaded as you wish from our website. And I'll be including that when I send the various resources. And of course, my finger was too heavy before I skipped over. This is an example of a parish taking some of our basic material and creating their own brochure. So moving forward, there is yet again another resource. Why am I loading you up with all of these resources? Why on earth would I do that? Well, the reason is I want to make sure that you know that there are many, many different options. Just like I mentioned before, there are many different planned giving options for an individual donor to reflect on and see what works for them. There are also many different options of resources, and I've just begun to tell you about some of them and how you could make use of them. It is up to you as a leader of your congregation to determine what fits best for you. And so some will make use of some resources and not of others. It is up to you to determine. I'll come back in a second to talking about your main planned giving leader, who we call the planned giving shepherd. That person or persons will be vital in reviewing all of these materials and helping the leadership of the church make decisions about this. But let me share just one more resource with you before we get deeper into planned giving on demand and begin to take some questions later on. So this is a great resource that's up on the screen right now. It is just an image that we took of a website which the Episcopal Church Foundation sponsors on your behalf, on behalf of all parishes, dioceses, and related entities. It's called Episcopal Gifts with an S.org. If you don't put the S, you'll end up in a different Episcopal entity's planned giving resource. But in this case, this is available to you to use. It is a super site of many, many different options. We work with a vendor, Crescendo, to provide it. And this website does not say, okay, give your gift to the Episcopal Church Foundation. What it does, as you can see on the screen, is it says to give to your favorite Episcopal charity or parish. And that is its main focus. What you can do at your congregation, if you decide that this is something you would like to do, for free, you can add this to your stewardship website. If on your stewardship page, you have made a separate planned giving page and maybe put some basic materials that you've learned about today about planned giving, you could also put this as a link to say, for more information, contact this person at the parish, or click on this link. And in the privacy of your own home, someone can take the time that they need to reflect on all of the different types of planned gifts, what might be right for them, what the timing might be right for them, and it will always be encouraging people to seek their own legal, tax, and financial assistance before finishing any gift. So this is yet again another tool, but one which ECF is very happy to provide to help benefit and to help that you don't have to be, as I mentioned in the previous webinar, you don't have to be an expert in planned giving, but this is a resource which you can take advantage of. One extra thing I will note on this is the planned giving calculator, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That is for the various types of planned gifts, especially those life income gifts that I mentioned before, that the Episcopal Church Foundation, as the main resource for planned giving, is responsible for overseeing, and you can learn more about that in the previous webinar. But just so that you know, this is also a place where someone in the privacy of their own home can simply investigate these gifts to see if they might fit for them. They can run their own illustration. If they want a more detailed illustration, it will direct them to contact the Episcopal Church Foundation, and we can certainly help them as they move forward on those efforts. Okay, so again, what I'm trying to do is to educate you, to ensure you know there are many, many different resources, but there is one particular resource which all of you will be getting, well, I should say each of your parishes, not every single individual, each of your parishes will be receiving a toolkit which the Episcopal Church Foundation has put together called Planned Giving on Demand. And in quick summary for what this is, as you could tell, the Episcopal Church Foundation has been doing planned giving for the Episcopal Church for many years. In fact, since the mid-90s. So it's quite some time. And during that time, we developed a number of different resources, all of which are available for you to make use of as you see fit. What happened, though, over time is as so many webinars got done and so many resources were put out there, it became like drinking from a fire hose. And maybe you guys are feeling that way right now. Well, we didn't want that. What we wanted was to create what's known as a curated resource of all of these different options for you to consider. And what we did is we put it together into a toolkit. As I mentioned, the Funding Future Ministry materials, several of the brochures and booklets, as well as many of the other resources for webinars and other things, were all compiled in a way in a 5-step program so that you would receive in this toolkit all of those materials in printed form, plus access to a special website where you would have access to all of these same resources, and they would be updated from time to time, but you would be able to get started basically where you are now. You could read whether you're at level 1, level 2, or you're expanded beyond that. And it enables you to figure out, well, what maybe did you skip on the way? What could you do? What are some of the other planning opportunities you would have? And so what we did is we created a central program guide, which is both in printed form that you receive in the toolkit, as well as in electronic form. So when you go online to the special website, which is designated for Planned Giving on Demand, you actually have an electronic copy of this 5-step program. And it's fully hyperlinked. So when it says to look at a particular webinar or pull up a certain brochure, read this article or that article, it will actually point you to that so that you can learn at your own pace and do the things that fit your particular context. It is not trying to be something that tells you this is what you must exactly do, but to seek to guide you into fitting into a planned schedule, how best you could implement your planned giving program. And the centerpiece of that, which I'll get to in a moment, is making sure you have leadership in place, especially in your planned giving shepherd, who will be leading this effort and educating themselves about planned giving on demand and the various resources. But as I mentioned in the last webinar, and I think at the beginning of this one, you need to take that first step. Typically, that first step is educating the leaders of the congregation and then planning out what next step you should take. So this is very important, and it's true both for those parishes who may be small and struggling, as well as for those parishes which are much larger. Many parishes are all feeling that sense of being overburdened. The goal with Planned Giving on Demand is to do this in a staged, incremental approach. So you take your time, just like you're asking your potential planned giving donors to take your time. So you're doing this in a staged approach so that you're slowly raising awareness, building up what is most important to do in the congregation first, and then building upon those foundations. To that end, because I don't want to make this webinar just going through the different aspects of Planned Giving on Demand, because through the wisdom of your diocese, you're going to get this anyway, so you can spend time doing that on your own. But you as leaders of your congregation can go through these steps and figure out what is most important to start on. What we will recommend, I'm just going to go through a few most important items that we think are things you should start on right away and take action on. The first is choose 1 or 2, preferably 2. I know some parishes are a little frightened about getting 2 volunteers, but you need to choose a leader, preferably 2 leaders who will work with each other and educate themselves about planned giving, okay? They will take it on themselves to shepherd the process, to take the resources of Planned Giving on Demand and those others from the Episcopal Church Foundation to help educate themselves so that they can educate others. The kind of people you need for this are people who like to collaborate and like to share information. I'm going to come back to the topic of choosing a planned giving shepherd in a few minutes, but I just wanted to introduce this idea. It is the person or group or set of people who work together to educate themselves with the goal of raising awareness about planned giving to the other leaders of the congregation, and slowly, as we say in New York, nudge this process along so that more awareness is maintained and more people will reveal to the parish that they have made this important decision of raising the parish to the level of family in their estate plan, and that the parish and the parish leadership takes the steps necessary to demonstrate that they wish to be in relationship and thank those individuals. Okay. I'm going to talk in a moment about some basic webinars that you could try out at early stages. Again, maybe they won't work for you, but I want to make sure that you know that they're available. I'm going to share some brand new ones, which are in addition to the ones that are linked up in your Planned Giving on Demand toolkit. But they are ways that you can start this effort almost immediately and share them with individuals who express an interest so that they could either review the webinar in the privacy of their own home, or when we have that day when we can return to parishes, to our parish homes and do adult forums again, it will also be available for an adult forum in those cases too. I would love to hear from members of you out there who have tried to do some adult forums online. This is something where it's a growing edge for all of us, and would love to hear how you're doing it as well. It can easily be done, but may not be the right time for it. You may want to do more planning before you do that. I'll also mention a very important article for the future, when we are back in our churches, for doing some quick assessment of who has made a planned gift, and we'll come back to that. But I just wanted to end this slide really with one of the basic building tools of your planned giving program, and that is putting in place those endowment and gift acceptance policies. As I've already said, ECF has some best practice policies. We're happy to share them with you, happy to help you adapt them for your own particular circumstance. And this came up as a question in the previous session about whether or not you need to put these in place before you start your planned giving effort. You can do them parallel. You need to just start in and start getting your leaders educated when it comes to planned giving. But at the same time, you can also put in place these endowment and gift acceptance policies and make sure that they become approved by the vestry and public for the rest of the parish to know about. Why is that important? Because, as I mentioned before, planned gifts are future-focused gifts on the whole, and most people who make a planned gift want it to last for the future. They do not want it consumed in the regular operating income. And quite honestly, if your parish has that bad habit of consuming a windfall planned gift in the regular operating income, and that's probably because you don't have these endowment and gift acceptance policies in place. If you make that mistake and you do that on a regular basis, you are teaching those potential planned giving donors that that's what you might do with their gift too. And what they will probably choose to do, honestly, is not give you a planned gift, but give it to someone else whom they trust. as I've been going over and over again in these 2 webinars, trust and awareness raising are key factors. Trust especially, because if you've spoiled the trust relationship between leadership and the members of the congregation, they will likely not want to give you a planned gift, or if they give you a planned gift, it will not be significant because they do not trust you with caring for that gift the way they would have intended, keeping it for the future and focusing on future ministry with it. It is not impossible to rectify a situation where there had been mistrust in the past. And I and the rest of my staff would be happy to help you with those situations if that's happened. Can't really get into great detail about it now, but a good way to begin that process, if you don't already have them in place, is to put these endowment and gift acceptance policies in place, even if you had that lack of trust in the past, because building that sense of trust and that sense of awareness that people can still do these sorts of gifts is key to actually getting the gifts, because people need to know what's going to happen to their gift that they give after they pass away. Is it going to be cared for in the way they would have intended? And what you're trying to avoid is having someone want to overly restrict a gift, because it can be very hard to work with an overly restricted gift. By building that sense of trust and confidence, you can help people to make these types of gifts, all of those different kinds that we went over in the last webinar, by building that sense of trust and by letting them know that there's many different ways that they can do this. So these are the very important points, the sort of centerpiece items for you to be thinking about as clergy and lay leaders. Let me show you a couple of resources that are really useful. Now, I have to give a shout out to the fantastic new bishop of the Diocese of Vermont, whose name is Shannon McVeigh Brown. She's amazing. If you don't know her, she is. And recently, because they saw that there was a lot of interest in talking about planning for the end of life, talking about giving to your parish, giving those ultimate planned gifts as well, because they were noticing this was happening, we actually revised a couple of workshops that I had originally planned to do in person up in Vermont. We revised them to be 2 different webinars. And so these are webinars that I'm going to share with you after this session, which could be shared with members of your congregation if you wish, or there's others in Plan Giving on Demand that can also be shared, or this could eventually, when we are returning to our physical plants and our physical churches, you could actually use them in the context of an adult forum. Both of these have resources from the Episcopal Church Foundation that are connected to them on the website, one being the one I mentioned before, Planning for the End of Life, so that you don't have to have all of your experts within your congregation to talk through these issues. You could play this webinar in the context of an adult forum, or as I say, share it with someone who might be expressing interest now. This is also something that you could send out if someone checks off that second box on the pledge card where they're asking for more information. You could send them both or one of these webinars, one of which being Making the Best Gift Now and in the Future, dealing with present giving and with future giving, because there have been a lot of changes with recent tax laws. So these are opportunities for you to share webinars, both to educate your own leaders, but also to educate and raise awareness about different options with planned giving with the members of your congregation. And let me just make it clear, if I haven't already, this is a part of your planned giving ministry. This is a part of what you're doing to raise that awareness, share these resources so that individuals can reflect on their own mortality and make decisions so that their wishes are fulfilled. Whether or not in the end they give you a gift or not is not as important as you raising this awareness so that this is a part of the ministry of planned giving, the ministry outreaching from stewardship to raise awareness of all of these issues. Now, those are things you can do right now. This is an idea I want to plant in your head, and this is often something a lot of folks, when we do an in-person workshop, people like thinking about this. So after we're in this new era, whatever it is, after COVID, and we're back in our churches again, and we're going to have a big meeting, maybe the annual meeting, maybe some other type of gathering of celebration or reflection or whatever the case might be. What I wanted to share is this very important article, which is a part of the Planned Giving on Demand packet, but it's also one that's immediately available right now on our Vital Practices, ecfvp.org website. What this article does is it instructs you to have an opportunity at the next significant event. Typically, doing it at your annual meeting is a great place, but this is a perfect place to start quickly if you have not in the past, or choose not to, put on your pledge card, your giving card. Please check off here if you've made a planned gift to the congregation. What you can also do is, at an event where you're gathering a large group of people, you could select someone from the congregation who has already somehow self-identified as being a planned giver. You could have that individual stand up and give a testimony to the rest of the congregation at that time and just talk for a couple of minutes. And I can assure you that person will not talk about any of the tax benefits they might have received from one gift over another. What they will talk about is the life-changing impact that your congregation has had on them and their family. And this is why they chose to do a particular type of planned gift. Let them do that personal witness. I know that's a little uncomfortable for some Episcopalians, but it's something you should really consider. And when they give that testimony for just a couple of minutes at this large gathering, have that person ask everyone in the assembly who has also made that type of that or any other type of planned gift to stand up and be recognized, and then everyone can applaud them. At that same time, whoever it is that you've designated as your planned giving shepherd, your main leader in planned giving, that person can record who those people are on either side of the gathering. Hopefully that's why you should have two, to write down who are those people who've just self-identified as planned givers. This is the quick start way of finding out who are those planned givers. And that helps you in many ways. First and foremost, as I mentioned before, so that your rector or priest in charge can send a handwritten note to those individuals, but also so that you can record that these are people who have made this important decision. Now, I've just covered a lot of detail, and as I say, each parish will be receiving one of the Episcopal Church Foundation Planned Giving on Demand toolkits. So you'll have plenty of time to review this and reflect on what's important for you as a congregation. I'd love to take some initial questions. I presume my pal Ken Allen will come up on the screen and ask me a few, and there'll be another opportunity toward the end of the webinar to ask questions. But I wanted to pause here and take a few, and then how we're going to continue on. We're going to talk a little bit about selecting that important planned giving leader, and then wrap up with a Legacy Society review. Ken, I'm going to take a sip of water.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. That was great. And we'll look forward to more. We do have some questions here. And so let me just pull them up.
Oh, okay.
We have this question. Can you say something about how, well, full question. We use Realm for our parish database. Is there a way to track planned gifts there? Do you know? I haven't seen it. Now, you may not have the answer to that, Jim, and if you don't.
I wish I did. But most products can record special characters like that. But that is, without a doubt, no matter what you use, You should be recording if somebody's planning to give you a plan gift, and then, of course, if they're interested.
Well, as I was about to say, I will find the answer to that through EDAL, and I will get it back out to the folks because I know a lot of us here in EDAL are using Realm, and it'll be happy to.
Oh,
useful to
okay.
know. But the message continues, the question continues. Can you say more about how practically to record the information when people self-identify their planned gifts? I'm a new rector, and just in the past year, at least 3 members have met with me and told me they made planned gifts. Other than thanking them profusely and meeting their pastoral needs, I have not yet known how to follow up any further.
Well, the Plan Giving on Demand toolkit is really going to be helpful for you in even just getting you better educated. I'm going to say more about the rector's involvement in just a second, but something important for you to be thinking about is record it somewhere, even if it's in a spreadsheet, and just make note of it. What you can also do is ask them what type of planned gift. If you were listening into the last webinar, you can play this at another time. It is important to, at some appropriate time, to ask them what type of planned gift. I typically recommend you wait to ask people about the type of planned gift until you have a legacy society up and running, and you can then send a information card to all the members who are part of that legacy society, which is simply people who have self-identified in this way, because you want to have a sense of, one, what types of planned gifts people have made so that you know where do you have to educate more. There is also a very practical reason, because if someone has informed you that they have made a gift of life insurance and you're just simply the beneficiary of term life insurance in the future, you need to ask that person, can they please give you record of being a beneficiary of that life insurance policy? Because unfortunately, no state in the union yet requires, and maybe, you know, DC as the 51st state will require it, but no state in the union yet requires that they must inform the beneficiaries of life insurance that they are a beneficiary. So you as an institution do need to know that so that you can then follow up, provide the death certificate, and then receive those funds for insurance. It's the only time, let me be clear, I don't recommend that you ever ask a dollar amount. You should never ask the dollar amount of someone's gift, but asking the type of gift is helpful, especially, as I say, for education of other gifts that people need to know, and honestly, for this very practical issue of insurance, just so that you can follow up.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions, Ken?
Yeah. Patience here. This is a related question, and that was very helpful answer. Thank you, Jim. A member of our legacy society died. How long do we wait to see if there is a gift forthcoming? How do we talk to survivors about that? Who should do that, clergy or lay leaders? Right.
There's no perfect answer, because in some congregations, the plan giving shepherd might be very pastoral and be capable of handling that. Honestly, most of the time in a situation like that, where the individual has not provided who the next of kin would be in contact, or been more specific at any time about what their plans were, it probably is something that after maybe a month or so, the rector or priest in charge could ask the family. And they can do it very gently, saying, they were a member of our legacy society, and we just want to hold them up as a witness. Can you please elaborate? And that's why it's also beneficial once the legacy society is in place, that you know the type of gift it was. Because if it were a will, I don't recommend you get a copy of the will, because wills can change. People can always take you in and out. And that can happen, right? That's what you can find out, unfortunately, after the fact, that if it was a will and then you talk to the family and say, I'm sorry, they revised their will at this time and the parish was taken out, that's fine. And a pastor can typically handle those conversations effectively, but it's beneficial for her or him to have that information up front about the type of gift.
Okay. What if leadership at my parish wants to keep all planned gifts anonymous?
Ooh. So this is the ongoing challenge, and it's the next thing I'm going to talk about with the Legacy Society. There is a tendency among some people to desire to stay anonymous. And I've encountered it many, many times. And anytime I encounter it, I try and push back and encourage the parish to be as willing as possible to do something public to say thank you to the individuals, because the vast majority of time, the people who are going to be making a gift to the parish are the regular people. They are not the wealthiest members of the congregation. It's the regular people. And the reality, in my experience, has been the people asking that question or telling me they want to remain anonymous are often the wealthier members of the congregation who don't want it to be known that either they've chosen not to make a gift or to make a very token gift to the parish. And therefore, I try to push back on them, because the majority of people actually want to be celebrated and thanked that they have made this gift. It needs to be done, as we'll talk about in a minute, in the most culturally appropriate way for the congregation, right? So there's many different ways to handle this, and ECF has some webinars to reflect on that you can listen to about, forming and crafting your legacy society in the right way. But I would always push on this to try and have something public, to have some opportunity where people will be publicly recognized, even if it's done in bulk, even if, like what I suggested before, of doing it at a public event and having multiple people stand up at the same time. It may be inappropriate to highlight just one person at one time, unless someone's making a testimony for themselves. But generally, you need to have an opportunity to thank and hold up the witness of people, but doing it in a group setting is almost always tolerable, even for those people who don't want to be recognized. However, let me make it clear, if someone that is their culture, they just refuse to do it, you must respect if someone wants to remain anonymous and not be listed or thanked publicly.
Okay.
So push, but try.
There were a couple of questions from people who were looking online for the resources you mentioned. I'm going to answer that one. Peter Turner, our great support from EDOW on this, has found the answer to that, and I'm going to put this in a chat message to everyone on the webinar. So now we'll go back to you, Jim, for whatever else you have for us.
I want to try and wrap up quickly, but I also want to highlight legacy societies, and just know that all of these resources and information is in the Plan Giving on Demand toolkit. You'll have access to it, so you'll be able to take your time going through this. But I want to highlight a few things while I'm here with you today, and that is the Plan Giving Shepherd role, as you can tell, is crucially important for this process, because what the Plan Giving Shepherd, and I recommend selecting two people, if at all possible, to do this, that those two people work together to educate themselves about all the basics of plan giving, so that they nudge the parish forward when it comes to plan giving, that they're going to try to have public events like I've just mentioned, that they are going to start planning to have a legacy society and educate members of the congregation. These are all crucial things. More you can read about in Plan Giving on Demand, but I do want to highlight one thing. Who should not be the Plan Giving Shepherd? To be very clear, it should not be the rector or another clergy person at the parish. The rector's role is crucial, as is noted by the third item. That person needs to be involved, the vestry needs to be involved, but the rector should not be the driving force. When it comes to stewardship issues, it's always best if a lay person in the congregation does this. However, not every lay person is most appropriate. I recommend you don't ask the treasurer, not only because she is probably far too busy, but also you don't want to have this immediate parallel between money and planned giving. Planned giving is an opportunity for everyone, regardless of their circumstances, to make the gift, whether it's a large gift or a small gift. You want everyone to consider making a gift that's appropriate for them. So I would recommend you don't have the current treasurer. A past treasurer, maybe. What is probably also someone you should not have would be a current church warden. I know this is hard for many smaller parishes, but not having someone who's already very occupied and very busy is important. You need someone who has the time and the energy and the free time, I should say, to do this sort of work. So former vestry members, especially former church wardens, are great candidates for PG shepherds. Also, make sure that that PG shepherd, and if, again, you should have two, if possible, so that if one bows out, the other one can jump in right away and that they can work together. They can also work together with a planned giving committee. Now, this is elaborated more in our Planned Giving on Demand resources. It gives some scheduling to consider how to set up the committee, who should be on it, etc. However, over time, as the Planned Giving Shepherd's work continues and grows, it will be beneficial for that person to have additional insight, and to have a planned giving committee will be very, very beneficial. Also, I'll just mention now this last point about having realistic expectations. I had said in the previous webinar how important it is to know that you get the largest number of planned gifts from annual, smaller number from major and capital, and the smallest number from planned gifts. I would love it if every single member of your congregation makes this commitment to make a planned gift. And if that ever happens, I want you to call me collect at the Episcopal Church Foundation. You'll be in the next issue of vestry paper, Vital Practices, because it is typically a smaller number of people, and that's okay. As I mentioned before, though a smaller number of gifts will come, it's your most dedicated people, those people that have raised you to the level of family, that believe in your future mission and ministry. So it's not going to be every single person. You should be very happy if a quarter of your pledgers also commit to a planned gift, but you should not be expecting that everyone will. I've already mentioned about the different types of gifts, so I don't need to go over that, but I want to dig a little deeper before we take more questions about a legacy society. This is one of the best ways that the Episcopal Church Foundation has found, and for that matter, all charities have found, to maintain relationships with these people who've raised you to the level of family, and honestly, to keep awareness existing on an ongoing basis. It also gives that opportunity for the individual themselves to make a witness, either in a private conversation or in the context I said before, at a public gathering, or for that matter, and I want everyone who's still doing church from home to be thinking about this, making a video of these people who have self-identified. Collect these videos. They are tremendously important. They can be played at a number of times. But all of these witnesses are crucial, because allowing an individual to tell their personal reason for why they've made this choice to make a planned gift is monumental in turning the hearts of others to do this. So having a legacy society really allows you to do all of this at the same time. And it's something that we talk about in Planned Giving on Demand. As you see, it's level 5. It's the highest level after you've spent some time raising awareness, getting the information out there, getting people trained up, getting a planned giving committee. It's also something that you can be planning for in the future, to have a legacy society, and especially to be thinking about having an inaugural event. Now, I know there have been a lot of previous attempts at doing legacy societies in the Diocese of Washington. You can think of this as a resurgence. If it isn't the true founding time, you can think of it as a resurgence. But one thing that we recommend that you do, which will both keep awareness alive because you mentioned the event coming up, and make people feel appreciated and thanked and retain that relationship year after year after year, because it's very easy to get removed from someone's estate plans. It's very hard to get in someone's estate plans, very easy to be removed. You want to retain that relationship and that awareness on an ongoing basis year after year. The way we found is by establishing a legacy society, keeping it as open and inclusive as possible, so you're never asking for a dollar amount, but that if anyone has made the decision to make a planned gift, regardless of the type, they are invited to become a member of the society. And if it's your very first time doing this, there's webinars and help in Plan Giving on Demand for doing this, but you want to allow people to have an opportunity to become a founding member, not to make themselves special from everyone else, but simply to let them know that anyone who contacts you from when you start this effort up until about 12 months into the future, anyone who notifies the Plan Giving Shepherd or other leaders of the parish that they have made this decision is invited to become a member of the Legacy Society and to be invited to an inaugural event, or if you're reinstituting it, to a resurgent event in the future. I keep hitting on this future point because you don't want to rush people through these decisions. It's imperative that they reflect on what is the right gift for them and their family, and that they don't feel rushed. Because if you push people too hard, remember what I said in the last webinar, you need to be sensitive and gentle and patient. If you push people too hard, they will not be as forthcoming. And they may give a token gift, but they will not give that transformational gift unless you allow them the time to reflect on what is right for them and allow them the space to consider what is appropriate for them. But doing a thank you event annually is key. As I said before, talking up the annual event to come automatically raises awareness about planned giving. And how do you become a member? Well, here's a brochure about how you can learn about all the different ways of planned giving. But holding this thank you event annually is key. Once you do this inaugural event, every year after year after year, you have to make yourself accountable. Put it in the upcoming planning for your next program year so that every year, year after year after year, you are scheduling this event. It doesn't have to be lavish, and certainly subsequent events after the first one can be less lavish, but it should be an event that clearly thanks and holds up the witness of those individuals who are a member of that. I realize at this moment of our lives, we really can't do this, but this is also a great time for you and your Plan Giving Shepherds to start educating themselves and using the resources to plan this so that this comes about as an event in the future, which, as I say, you will repeat year after year after year. I'll say it again. It's really hard to get into someone's estate plans. It's really easy to be taken out. And if you do not demonstrate that you are thankful for these gifts on an ongoing basis, someone may well decide, well, you were just interested in my money, and they may give it to someone else. Or they may find that they cannot trust you if you betray trust or use gifts for purposes not intended, or start spending a planned gift for current means. That will break down that level of trust and drive someone to choosing someone else. But at this time, do think about recording people and their testimonies. It can be used in this time for as long as we're still not in person at our events, but also can be played at these Legacy Society events, especially if some of the members are older and may pass away before a future event takes place. What a wonderful testimony they could give if it's recorded. So where I wanted to begin to end is I just wanted to give you guys a little inspiration, and then I want to hear more from you about your thoughts and questions. There are many, many different ways, and Trinity Cathedral in Little Rock, Arkansas was one of the participants in some of the webinars that you can see on Plan Giving on Demand. And the reason I highlight them now is because they have done a lot of things that you could consider doing yourself. Nothing that I have recommended you have to do. However, these are all ideas, all seeds I want to plant in your mind to help consider what are the best things that your parish could do to instill and raise awareness of plan giving. A couple of ideas from this wonderful parish out in Little Rock. So something they did was that they did some great research on materials, and you can see some of the handwritten journals of their first pastor from over a century ago. They were able to find these materials and actually read from them in the context of one of their Legacy Society events. What an exciting and different and unique opportunity. Great, great thing to do. The people who are going to give you a planned gift are your, as I've said before, are your most dedicated members. They want to know more about your past. So if there are things that you can celebrate about the great work that you've done in the past, the great ministry that you're doing right now and in the present, as well as what you're looking to in the future, the Legacy Society wants to hear about that, and you can incorporate that in some of your annual thank you events that take place. There is a pin also displaying on your screen, which is also rooted in history for Trinity Cathedral. You can see the three fleurs-de-lis, which represent the Trinity for them, and this is their original symbol, which is in their church very clearly. And they made a pin which people can wear, and I'm a huge advocate of pins. It may not be perfect for your parish. I'm a huge advocate for one main reason, because you can give those to people to wear all throughout the year so that that person has the opportunity to be asked about that pin. And so they can say, yes, this pin represents that I'm the member of Trinity Cathedral's Legacy Society. And this is why I chose to do it. That natural opportunity for them to give a personal witness is exactly the kind of things you want to have happen on an ongoing basis throughout your congregation so that they can give that personal witness. As I say, great to get that recorded so it can be played at events that you do as an adult forum or at a Legacy Society event or whatever is appropriate. What I will, because I know we're getting a little tight on time, I would love to hear from folks about your own virtual events that you might be considering doing. And I want really to hear your questions, and I want you don't have to tell me now, but I want you to reflect on what's the next step you're going to take to move your plan giving efforts forward. I can tell you one that's going to happen real soon, and that's going to be your parish will be receiving the Plan Giving on Demand toolkit. And if that's your only next step, that's a huge one, and one which you and the Plan Giving shepherds you'll be selecting at your parish can do. Go ahead, Ken. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jim. We do have one question which I want to have you answer. It's a quick one, I think, because we are pretty much at the end of our time here. But here's the statement. We have a generosity/stewardship team generally with a chairperson. Right now, the plan is for them to focus on launching a planned giving program, but should we be recruiting a planned giving shepherd separate from the stewardship chair?
Yes, the answer is yes. I know it's hard because sometimes in smaller parishes and strapped parishes, it's hard to get that extra person. But the person involved in stewardship could certainly be involved in the plan giving efforts, but it is best if you'd have a separate person who educates themselves and moves this effort forward. If you are in a unique situation where you just can't do it and you have to, you can, but it's going to be harder on that person. But that person, if they're in charge of the stewardship, can make certain that they use the giving card I'm going to send out and make sure that it has notation on there for them to enable people to tell you whether or not they've raised you to the level of family and if they want more information.
Very good. Jim, I want to thank you for doing this. I want to reiterate to everyone here that you will be receiving the Planned Giving on Demand toolkit. In the next day or two, you'll get an email from me confirming the address to which it will be sent. EDOW will be placing the order, and they'll come in bulk to us, and then we will resend out to you all. So never fear, it will be on its way. It'll be one per parish that's represented here. We also will be happy from the Financial Resources Committee to follow up with you if you'd like to continue these discussions within the diocese. If you want some to be connected to parishes in the diocese that have planned giving programs, then so you can learn directly from them, we'll be happy to do that. I'll be your point of contact at the moment for that, and so you'll have my information in the email that we send out. Jim, do you have any?
Do
you have a benediction for us?
Well, I don't have a benediction. All I will say is thank you so much for your time today. This is a crucially important ministry for the future of the Episcopal Church, for your particular parish, and for the Diocese of Washington. And I thank you, Ken and Rosie and Bishop Buddy, for having the vision to embrace this. All of us at the Episcopal Church Foundation are here to help you, and we're happy to share all of the resources that we can. But thank you really to the diocese for having the vision of giving the Planned Giving on Demand toolkit to every parish in the diocese. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and all of us at ECF are happy to support the leaders throughout the diocese in this effort.
Great. Now, I do want to call one last thing. I'll call everyone's attention to the fact that our the links to the Planned Giving online materials, a couple of you asked about because you couldn't find, they are in the chat function. So yes. Thank you, and we'll let you know when this is available for viewing as a recording. Thank you to Jim, thank you to Peter Turner at EDOW for your help, and thank you to all of you for participating. Have a great day, great weekend, and blessings to all of you.
Yes, God bless everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.